I do know Miss Shari Bostic. I'm sorry. It's been a long time, a long time. So I was just trying to give the candidates an opportunity to probably not be as nervous as I am. The format tonight, our candidates have already received questions. They have been pre-posed to our candidates, but you all will also, as audience members, will have the opportunity to pose any questions that you may have for our candidates, and we will give them the opportunity to respond to those questions. Um, we would like to first start with allowing each of our candidates, and we can go in alphabetical order based on last name, the 5 minutes to introduce themselves to us and share anything that you would like to share within those 5 minutes about why you are the best choice as the next mayor in the city of Gadsden. And I will keep the time.
I guess that means I'm first. My, I went to my school is not quite dark yet, so I don't do too good with learning until we start. I'm just kidding. My name is Robert Avery, and of course, I'm a candidate for mayor of the city of Gadsden. And I guess the thing that I want people to know more than anything else is my experience. It just dawned on me with all of the things that are going on. There's a very strong possibility, and I want, hopefully this will sink in if I learn nothing else I'll say. It dawned on me that come the end of August, we could possibly have 4 new city officials out of 8, which means half of our governing body would be new. And in times like this, that's saying a whole lot to have those many people who don't even know where the bathrooms are located running your city. And so this has been experience counting. That's where I'm coming from, the experience. I've served 24 years on the Gadsden City Council. And if you will look at my resume, you'll note that out of those 24 years, 20 of those years I served as chairman of the finance committee for the city. I've also served at the state of Alabama municipal officials, Alabama League of Municipalities. I served on their executive committee. I've served on their fair committee, which is their finance committee. I've served on the National League of Cities executive committee and chaired a number of their committees. So I bring a wealth of information and wealth of knowledge when it comes down to city government. And I want to make sure I found on that, because again, like I said, experience is going to count this time around. With all of the possible new people who are coming on board, we really need somebody at the helm of this thing to have that experience. One of the other things I want to talk about, again, I've served on numerous boards around this city, and of course around the state, and around the nation. I've served on the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta Housing Board. I've served on the Alabama A&M University Board of Trustees. But two of the things I want to talk about that I'm very, very proud of is being president or past president of the Alabama Association of Community Development Corporations. Very, very important organization. And that organization is going to help us move our city forward. As president of the Alabama Association of Community Development Corporations, we were able to not only build the Johnson's Apartments that's located on 9th Street, right off behind Mount Pilgrim Church, but if you look at our webpage, pretty soon you're going to be seeing all of the other things that we've been doing. We built a 38-unit housing complex in Opelika, Alabama. Greater Peace Baptist Church was the conduit that we built that through. I could go on and on and on. We only have but a few minutes. Experience is what's going to count. And we need someone with that experience at day one to make sure we get started on the right track. One of the most important things I want to do when I get elected to office is that we're going to have a cleanup crew, because everybody keeps complaining about how dirty this city is. We're going to have a cleanup crew assigned to every district. We will know whose job it is and who is not doing their job when it comes down to cleaning up this city. That's one of the things that I really want to push. I also want to make sure that our city employees make a decent living. We can't give them $15 an hour the first day, but we're going to make sure over a period of time that we're going to be raising those salaries. No one in City Hall will be making less than $15 an hour. I could go on, but I ask you to go to my webpage. It's going to be very, very active from now to election time. You can go to robertaveryformayor.com, and you're going to be able to find my platform and all the other things that we plan on doing. Again, I appreciate your support. I appreciate your vote. And I ask that on August the 23rd, you go and vote Robert Avery for mayor. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. It's okay to clap. And that was less than 5 minutes. I should have said, if you don't want to use your entire 5 minutes, you do not have to, but you're welcome to do so. Candidate Ford.
Thank you very much. I don't like following Robert. He stole some of my thunder. No, I'm just kidding. First of all, I want to say something about Robert. My wife teaches school at Gadsden State Community College, and she's very involved with the Early Childhood Development Program. That's her program. And she works closely with the Head Start program. And thanks to Mr. Avery for what he was able to do, and I'm sure you'll mention that later, but we got one of the first Head Starts in the United States brought to Gadsden, Alabama. So that was a big deal. So I want to commend him, and my wife is here tonight. Gwen's in the back. She's back row Baptist. We've been married 29 years. We have 2 children. Jonathan Ford, who is in Atlanta, and he's stationed in Gadsden, but he travels a lot. He's getting married in March. So they'll both be married, and that's an answer to a prayer. And he's marrying a girl, the first girl he's ever dated with a job. So we're really happy. But then my daughter, she's a nurse, and both of the girls are going to nurse anesthetist school. And my daughter got married, and 5 days later, her husband got shipped off to Germany. He's in the military. He graduated with his commission at Auburn, and he's stationed out of Fort Bragg, but now he's in Germany. He should hopefully be home by Thanksgiving. So what do? I'll tell you a little bit about myself if you don't already know. I own Ford Insurance Agency. My wife and me do. She told me to make sure she is part owner, if not full owner. We also own the Messenger newspaper, which is a good news newspaper. And we also, she's a teacher in public education. I've also dabbled in some consulting business too throughout the state once I got out of the legislature. I served 18 years in the Alabama legislature. For 7 years, I was the Alabama House Minority Leader. In 2010, when the House changed leadership, they had to get a leader to try to help build the bridges and the gaps so we could get legislation passed, which I think we did. We did a lot of good for the people of Alabama. And we were able to work with the other side, which was important. We went from almost a super majority to a super minority. So that's pretty tough if you'll just imagine what that entails in the Alabama legislature. So it was all about building relationships, and that's what we were able to do. I was able to work across party lines. We put party differences aside, and we tried to do what was best for Alabama, and then I tried to represent our district well in Etowah County and Gadsden first and foremost. First of all, thank you, too, for having me here. It's an honor to be here with you. I would not miss this for anything. I try to go to everything that I can, and I just want to tell you, I look forward to tonight, and that's a little bit about myself, but we have big plans, and I'll try to answer a lot of those plans when we have the questions available. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Another one. 2 minutes left. Thank you so much. Candidate Worthy.
Thank you. Thank you all for hosting this forum. If you don't know, my name is Thomas Worthy. I'm currently serving on the city council. This is my second term. So who better to vote for than someone that's there and know what's going on right now? Know the budget, know the ins and outs of City Hall. Like Mr. Avery said, we may have 4 new people, but we need the right people in office. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I graduated from Emma Sansom. I went into the military, went into the Army, 3 years active duty, stationed at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. Did 3 years, came back, joined the Alabama National Guard, did 19 years in the Alabama National Guard. Now, became a police officer after I come off active duty. I went to Gadsden State. Right after I graduated with a criminal justice degree, I was hired on with the police department. So I've been on the police department. I was on there for 26 years. I'm also an active SRO. I went back to work because I hate begging people for money. So I went back to work for this campaign. So I put over $8,000 into my own campaign. So I won't be beholden to anybody, any group or anybody. I'm gonna do what's best, not for a group or a clique. I'm gonna do what's best for the community, what's best for the city of Gadsden as a whole. So I've been the president of the Fraternal Order of Police. I've been the president of our police union. I'm proud to say that I was the executive director of the Etowah County Democratic Executive Committee. I've done a lot of different things. In power, I don't really care about having power. That's why my platform is unity and returning power to the people, because I had power as a police officer. I had power when I was in the military. After 9/11, my unit was called up. We went to Fort Stewart for a year. We thought we were going overseas, but they tasked us to go to Fort Stewart to do gate duty. I was the non-commissioned officer in charge of about anywhere from 70 to 80 troops every day, not only guard troops, but active duty troops, for the ones that didn't deploy overseas for whatever reason. So I'm not looking to score political points with being in power. What I want to do is help the people. Ever since I've been in office and before I became a city councilman, I've always helped the community, helped the city. That's what it's about, having the right heart for this community, for this city, so we can move it forward. I would like to get rid of dirty politics. Dirty politics is what's causing our city to be stagnant. I'm going to say that again. Dirty politics is the reason why our city is stagnant, and I want to get rid of that. What we need to do is take a regional approach. Look at Madison County. I'm pretty sure they have problems, but Madison County is booming. You don't read about their problems in the paper. So that's why we all have to come together in unity. This whole county, every city in this county needs to work together, because we all on the same boat, rowing hopefully the same way if we want to progress. We need to help the county right now with the mega site. If you all don't know, the mega site in Baldwin County just got a $2.1 billion industry there. $2.1 billion. So that lets you know that their infrastructure was already built. Pilgrim Pride wanted to come here, the rendering plant, which I was against. But they looked at the mega site. It's going to cost anywhere from $20 to $30 million to build the infrastructure. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, but they did not want to pay that price. So what I said the other night at the Mayor's Association dinner is, most of the cities in this county has a water department, So why we can't take a crew from each one of those water departments and start building the infrastructure for the mega site? And then when you get to a part that the crews cannot handle, then you have a contractor to come in, because I'm sure they don't have the equipment to bore under the highways and bore under roads. So you have to have a contractor to come in for that. That would knock that price tag of $20 to $30 million way down. And then when we do get an industry at the mega site, no matter if it's a large industry or a small industry, it's going to help every city in this county. It's going to help Gadsden. We need to do better when it comes to our police, fire, and our city employees. They need a raise. But right now, I'm not going to promise them. I'm not a politician. I'm a servant. So when I go speak with these groups and I tell them, I'm not going to promise to give you a big raise, because you all don't know, but our revenues have been going down since December. Every month they've been going down. We were receiving from Goodyear, we were still receiving occupational tax, which was $200 and some thousand a month. But last month that cut off, they stopped getting their checks. So now we're not only receiving the occupational tax, they're not receiving their money so they can go out and buy goods and services. So we will lose even more money on the taxes on the revenue end.
Candidate Worthy, I'm
Yes, ma'am.
sorry. That was your 5 minutes, but
Okay.
I was gonna let you borrow some of that time from some of the other candidates. But
Okay, well, that's fine.
we certainly have plenty of time tonight. What I have heard thus far, and I'm sure you all have heard and probably felt the same thing, that these three candidates that are before us tonight are all experienced. We have candidate Ford, who's spoken on his time at the state legislature, which we know is incredibly important. We've heard from two candidates who both have spent multiple terms on the city council, and so we know that our candidates are experienced. And as I said, you all have been provided the pre-posed questions ahead of time, but as the moderator, I also get to ask a couple questions. So let me start out. I was looking at some statistics here, demographics in the city of Gadsden, because I know from back when I was younger, the demographics are certainly changing. And so, if you Google Gadsden, a lot of people, it is kind of referred to as a retirement town, a retirement city. A lot of people come here and they want to take advantage of our beautiful lakes, the rivers that flow through here, and everything else. So when we look at demographically, and this is the statistics from the census of 2021, we have 56% white, 37.41% Black or African American, and then we have two or more races that account for about 2.75%, and then other race unidentified at 1.99%, and then 1% of Asian. And so when you look at that, that is truly, it's not an exact replica of the world, but it certainly is an indication of what happens across the world. There are folks from multi-economic incomes, from various races and genders that exist. And so my question would be, what is your vision for the City of Champions relative to the youth? And it looks like Mr. Ford was volunteering first.
You want to go down the line?
If you want to go first, that's okay.
Okay. All right.
You don't like to come behind me.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna go first. Yeah. So one thing is that pained me when my son, I asked him about what he's going to do. He said, "Dad, there's not much to come back to in Gadsden." Now that pains a father when your children they want to come back, but there's not the opportunities there for them to come back. So I take that personal. I was born and raised here, grew up in East Gadsden, still live in Gadsden. I was one of those that didn't want to leave. And I failed to mention earlier, I'm still in the Alabama Army National Guard, and I've always been a part of the National Guard units here locally, which has been important to me and to the community also. But if we don't get our Parks and Rec department in shape, if you look at what's going on, if anybody's followed the news and what I did in the legislature, I tried with the rest of the delegation when we developed the mega sports complex. I wanted it in the city limits of Gadsden. We tried. It's hard to find land that is contiguous, that we were looking for 100 acres. And so we ended up having to go into the county, which was out near Rainbow City. And then Rainbow City annexed in the land, and we cut a deal with the city of Rainbow City that we would give them the land if they would build the road. So it was a win-win deal. My whole mission in that was onefold, is just to try to have something available for our kids to have a field to play on. We could not recruit soccer tournaments. We call them soccer fields, but they're multi-purpose fields. You can do just about anything on these fields: flag football, pee-wee football, frisbee football. It was a disgrace to me that the facilities that we have had. Now, the current council and administration have built what's going on behind Gadsden State Community College, which I think is excellent. That was a win-win deal. They went in with a partnership, and they leased the land from Gadsden State, and they were able to build what we have going on over there. If you haven't been there, I hope you do go back there. But also, it was able to bring back girls softball at Gadsden State. So that's another opportunity for us to showcase our community. Now we're bringing back boys baseball. So it was a partnership, which I think we got to do more of. But if we don't have more recreational activities with fields, look at Albertville. They built over, I think it was $105 million, the final tab of what they did up in their area. They have sports fields. They bring in tourism dollars every weekend. If you look at Gunnersville Landing, What they're doing is amazing. And I never thought Boaz would be outdoing Gadsden by building an amphitheater to bring in revenue and tourism. So it really bothers me that we're not trying to take advantage of our natural resources. How many cities would love to have a river flow right through their city? How many cities would love to have Nakalula Falls right in their city? How many cities would love to have the people that I think that we have? And I'm tired of hearing the negative rhetoric on social media from, I call it noise, outside the city about what's wrong with us. There's nothing wrong with us. We have one of the finest school systems I'm proud of. I worked with Dr. Tony Reddick many years in helping secure funds for education. I love our schools. Could they be better? Absolutely. Could we always do better? Yes. How do you do better? Well, you got to build better facilities. You got to have better schools. But we can do things that can help, like bring back Riverfest. Well, Riverfest can be great for the citizens in Gadsden, but you also got to bring back a musical festival in the Carver community. You got to bring back something where everybody wants to come. I'm not a country music guy. I'll just be honest with you. I don't like a lot of music, period. I listen to a lot of talk. So, but I just think, there's been some things done in the past that I think we could correct and we could do better. But youth sports is a golden opportunity to bring in jobs, revenue, tourism dollars are clean. We have to fix we need better schools in our area. They talked about, somebody said, well, we can merge all these schools together into one. I like neighborhood schools. That's just what I like. I like new facilities, and I think that'll help our youth too. So
thank you. Thank you, Candidate Ford. Candidate Avery? Yes. It's okay to applaud. I'm going to also, if I could, I would like to pose just maybe a 2.5 minute time for you all to respond to the questions, if that's okay. Thank you.
I think I can meet that 2.5 minutes. I guess it's working. Yeah. I think I can meet that 2.5 minutes. The first thing I want to do is to start a Department of Youth Services. And that Department of Youth Services, again, will be servicing our young people. And a number of things can come out of that department. We talked about education. Again, I want you to go to my webpage. There's a school in Noonan, Georgia, a high school that have one of the best tech programs in the world. We've been over there several times, and we've been able to talk to Mr. Whitlock, who's the director, and giving us a lot of information about how we can get started. But they have young people over there in high school who are making thousands and thousands of dollars a year in their craft. I think one young man, if you go on my webpage, I think you might be able to see him, 17 years of age, and he is a machinist in high school, and he still works for a Japanese company that has a plant there in Noonan, and they have one in Texas. He's their troubleshooter. He's learning this tech information in high school. Look at that program, and we're going to be able to duplicate the same thing here. I could go on with a number of things that we can do with the Department of Youth Services. I think Quest for Excellence was a great thing that we had back in the day.
Yeah.
We're going to go back and recreate and duplicate a program like that with our young people, keeping them involved, keeping them off the streets. So again, with the 2.5 minutes, go to my webpage, and then you can hear and see a lot more.
Thank you. I want to say my applause was not, indicative of supporting candidate Avery, but I'm a product of Quest for Excellence. So I know what Quest for Excellence did for us when it was actively open and existing in the community. It saved a lot of our lives. So that is pretty cool to bring that back up. Candidate Worthy?
Yes, ma'am. We have to find a way, just like Mr. Ford said, when I graduated from high school, I wanted to leave and wasn't never coming back to Gadsden because there wasn't nothing here to do. But we have to change that. We have a lot of kids, they go off, they graduate from college, and then they don't have anything to do when they come back here. So what I want to do is we got to expand on our broadband. We are already putting that broadband infrastructure in, and we got to continue to get that high-speed internet so we can have the IDA and the Commercial Development Board go and recruit these high-tech companies and bring them back here to Gadsden and get them to relocate here. And then our kids, when they go off to graduate, they can come back here and have a job, and they can work from home. There's a lot of jobs you can do from home if you have the technology. So that's what I want to do. We need to expand our Parks and Rec department. We need to have our community centers open on the weekend to give our young people something to do, because that also cut down on crime. We need to go back to what we used to do. We call midnight basketball, where you come out and have some police officers, if we can get enough. We're about 20 officers short, so if anybody want to be a police officer, we need you. Matter of fact, the Civil Service Board has cut out the Civil Service Board test, so you don't even have to take the test now to become a police officer, but you still have to pass the academy. So it's so much we can do, but we got to come together in unity. You got to have an administration, you got to have a mayor that cares about the city, cares about each community, not just part of the city. You got to care about and love the whole city. And that way we can get more people in the Parks and Rec. I remember when my kids were little, we traveled all over this country playing baseball, playing soccer. And I said it back then, we need to build some things here in Gadsden. You go to these small communities and they have state-of-the-art facilities. But I hope we haven't waited too late to build this sports complex over here. Maybe we'll be able to get some tournaments, but when they proposed it, I told them we might have waited a little too late to do this, because you got the Chakalaka down in Oxford. You got the one up there in Abbeville. That's amazing. I went up there and toured it the other day. I went to up in Gunnersville Landing. So we can do that here. But we have to get people working. We have a lot of jobs here that people are not taking. So we got to get our workforce up. That's the only way we're going to get these industries to come in here. And we have to support the school system also, so we can have a educated workforce. And thank goodness for Gadsden State, they landed the advanced, I forgot the name of it, but it's the advanced technology center. So that's going to be about $20 million, $30 million. And that's, we'll be able to go out and train the people, the young people, for the jobs of tomorrow, which is today. And
I'm getting mean mugged up here. I said I'm getting mean mugged.
Okay.
And I was.
Did I go over about 2 minutes?
You did, but
Okay.
but I think it's okay. I think it's important to hear your voice. And actually, your last comments was gave a great segue into the next question that I wanted to ask. And this is a question that you all have read before and knew that it would come tonight. But how would you go about totally supporting our school system? And if you like, you can 2.5 minutes, you can answer that, and then we'll come to candidate Avery and then candidate Ford.
What I would like to do is change the dynamics and do what we call a mayor superintendent driven school system. That means we help the schools, we fund the schools, but we don't try to tell the schools what to do, because I'm not an educator. My craft is in law enforcement. So I'm not going to sit here and tell our educators, Mr. Reddick, Mr. Blackwell, or anybody else in education what to do. You sit back, you give them the tools that they need, and you give them the money that they need to do the job, and you leave them alone and you let them do it, because they're educators. That's what we have to do. That's how I would do the school system. We're going to fund the school system. The mayor's office has the bullet pulpit. We have to get the community involved also. We have to get the parents involved. And I said this, we have to get the parents some kind of incentive to get involved with their own kids. And I said it's a shame we have to do that, but it's just like with the vaccines. We had to give an incentive for people to take the vaccine and save their own life. So I guess we're just living in that world now. But the parents has to be involved for it to work.
Yeah, thank you. Candidate Avery?
one of the things that I want to institute, one of the things I'm going to institute, and I understand that the governor and the legislature is looking at it too, every 4-year-old in this city, will have an opportunity to go to a public school for academic learning. We have Head Start program, and Head Start is a great program. Like Brother Ford said, you know, I was one of the original people who applied for the Head Start program back in 1965. Most people in this city don't know we had the first funded Head Start program in the nation. And we've had a steady Head Start program since 1965. But getting back to making sure that our 4-year-olds have a head start in academics, as opposed to not just social programming. We lose our young people by 3rd grade. If they don't know how to read and comprehend by 3rd grade, you know, the other group that they've been talking about, those policemen, they're building jails and prisons based on the outcome of 3rd grade scores. And so what we've got to do, we've got to make sure that our children have a head start at academics at 4 years old, as opposed to waiting till they get 5 years old or go to the 1st grade, their first time opening up a book. Plain and simple. It's easy. It doesn't take rocket scientists to figure it out. But if we can get them a head start in academics at 4, I think that'll solve a lot of our problems.
Thank you, Candidate Avery. Candidate Ford.
I'm going to do exactly what I did when I was in the legislature for 18 years. I'm going to uncover every rock and every stone there is and try to secure funding for our school system. When we were in the legislature, we passed a 1-cent sales tax, which was unpopular, and extended it until the people got to see what their taxes were going towards, and you're sitting in part of it. We built 8 new high schools. We built gymnasiums throughout the county and the city. We also, I was able to serve on the budget committee. I know how to get money out of Montgomery. I know where it's hidden. I know how to write the grants. I was able to secure over $50 million in your tax dollars to bring brought back here to Gadsden. And if I didn't get it, a lot of people say, well, that's not good. We don't like that. Well, if I didn't get it, somebody else is going to get it. So I know how to fight and scrap and get every dollar we can. The finance director, Bill Poole, is one of my good friends. Used to sit right next to him on the House floor. But if you want to change this area, you want to change Gadsden, everybody loves to talk about jobs, workforce development. We got to come up with jobs. Well, you got to create a workforce. And that starts, like Mr. Avery said, in pre-K. And it starts then. And it not only starts then, but you got to have the right facilities. You can have a beautiful building like we have here at Gadsden City High. But if you don't give these educators the necessary tools that they need to take care of their students, then they can't teach. And a building can only go so far. The morale of the teachers has to be uplifted. Why in the world right now that our city, and this is just my opinion, doesn't have a good relationship with the Board of Education is beyond me. I've never heard of a city not wanting to participate with their school system in revenue funding. I, as mayor, intend to be in the lunchrooms with the kids. I intend to try to get the council members to be in the lunchroom with the children. I plan to be on the sideline for the Gadsden City High School football team if Ali will let me, as long as I don't get thrown out, because I got a bad temper sometimes. But I love our schools. But we have to look at Stripling Elementary. Is so outdated, it's pitiful. Oscar Adams, Donahue, they have made the best that they can do with what they have. But we need new facilities. We could build K-8 schools. You could combine Stripling and Gadsden Middle. You could combine Oscar Adams, Donahue, and Litchfield and build new K-8 schools. There's a lot of potential there. Well, how do you do it? Where are you going to get the money? It's easy to say that. This bond on this school pays off in 2032. We could be refinancing this bond to build new schools today. And that's what we need to do if we want to change this community in education.
All right. Yes, sir.
Okay. I take offense to the local government not supporting the schools. And I know there's some stuff right now that's going on. The tech building that sits right behind here, had it not been for the Gadsden City Council, my leadership and Bob Eccles' leadership, we wouldn't have that building back there. I can also get verified through former state rep Larry Means that we were able to secure $200,000 out of his discretionary money without his knowing. I'm sorry, without his okay for that program back there. So there are people in this city who care about the school system. There are people in this city who have worked towards helping this school system. There are some issues going on right now, but I just want to make it clear that everybody in this city and everybody in the city government is not opposed to the school system. I want to make that clear.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy or Candidate Ford, is there a response or we're good?
No, well,
I concur.
well, that's part of it. You know, the city, for whatever reason, we didn't fund the school this go around. I guess it's because they got $20-some million also from ARP funds. But that's the other thing that's part of the dirty politics. No council member, and I told Mr. Reddick that at the one of the council meetings he came to, I think it was pre-council, no council member should be put in that position to either vote to take the money from the school system, or if you vote no, then you wouldn't get the money for your district. No councilman should be put in that situation. And I said, if I'm mayor, I would never do that, because just because one council member decide they don't want to support you on one issue, maybe you work well together on the next issue, but you don't blackball them. And that's what goes on, and that's part of the dirty politics in this city that I want to get rid of. And yes, I did. I decided, since they had got the $24 million, I voted along with the rest of the council members not to give the school system money for last year in the budget. But I fought to keep it there. And when I seen I didn't have the support to keep it there, I had to do something for my community, because my community suffered a lot because I go against the grain. I do what I think is right for everybody, not just a clique. So yes, we've suffered because of that. And I said, well, we're not going to suffer here because of we got $24 million in the ARP funds. And I know if I would have voted against it, then we wouldn't have got into that money. So since I voted for it, we're getting $2.1 million to fix the drainage issues in District 3, mainly right there at 11th Street by Marvin's. And also we got the lights fixed, and we're going to do drainage area in other areas in District 3.
Thank you. Thank you, Candidate Worthy. I'll tell you personally, as a huge parent advocate, it is refreshing to hear you all as candidates talk about the need for parental engagement. Many of our parents are unaware of what's happening at the state legislature, the laws that are being passed and passed down to families and individual households. A lot of parents are unfamiliar with the Numeracy Act that is going into place this upcoming school year, and also the Reading Act, which Governor Ivey actually suspended it for 1 year. But essentially it says that if our children, our third grade children, are not reading on grade level by the time they're in the third grade, those students will be held back.
Exactly.
They will be held back. And in fact, next year, the same thing will happen for math. So anything that we can do to engage parents, to have our parents involved, to understand how important it is. And you're correct. It does start with pre-K. It actually starts before they're 4 years old. It starts from conception to birth. Really conception to death. Candidate Worthy, just 30 seconds, maybe
Okay.
15 seconds,
Well,
and then we'll go
give
further.
credit to the school system, because during the summer, they had 1 month. Each elementary school had a reading program for that whole month, because I worked U of Brown as a school resource officer for that month. So our school system, that's to help the kids be able to read on that third grade level, so they'll be able to pass and be able to go to the next grade.
That is awesome. It is something that's definitely needed, and something that across the state we've seen, really across the nation, we've seen folks participating in. The next question we have, and I'm going to reduce the time because I'm not sure what time we're scheduled to end, but I do know we want to give time for audience members to ask questions. So the next question.
One more thing.
Yes, sir. Candidate Ford.
And this is for all of us. I know we all feel the same. There's 3 programs that I know of: Gertie Lowe's, Summer Enrichment, Pastor Simmons at New Liberty, and Larry Weathers at Antioch. They have wonderful summer programs. And I'm sure everyone in this audience supports those programs, or you wouldn't be in here today. But it's the people, and the people up at this table, we all have to explain to the other candidates and council members that educators can't do it all by themselves. A lot of times these summer programs are important and need to be funded as well. So I just wanted to say that.
All right. So cleanliness is next to godliness. That's what we were probably raised being told. It's not in the Bible, but we believe that. So the next question that I have, and that will be posed to you all, our neighborhoods, they need to be cleaned up. It impacts infrastructure. It impacts the ability to drive down roads where you don't need a front end alignment, or if we have blight in the community where we have existing buildings there, and we're not doing anything about them because maybe some communities are not found to be neighborhoods where people want to invest and or reinvest. So how would you all, as the mayor, clean up our neighborhoods?
Well, I said earlier, one of the things I want to do is assign a cleanup crew to each district. But the other thing that I didn't go into details, and again, you can go to my webpage. When I said something about the Community Development Corporation, Community Development Nonprofit Corporation, that is a vehicle that the city can use. A lot of cities have them. They're separate quasi-governmental entities. Those entities can go on private property. Those entities can do things on private property that the city itself can't do. They can secure funding to help people paint their houses. They can they can get funding to help people fix their houses up. And that's one of the things that we're going to establish in this city is a community development nonprofit corporation for the city. And so we can go in and clean up our neighborhoods and help those individuals. Like I said, the one down in Opelika, if you know Greater Peace Baptist Church, you can check with the pastor down there. They get funding. They could do a whole lot of things that the city can't do by helping people who can't afford to get those houses fixed up. Instead of us tearing houses down and what have you, then we can replace those by going in with that nonprofit. The other thing I want to talk about, I was responsible for the city getting the land bank. That was on my way out the door. I finally got them to accept the land bank, but they don't know what to do with the land bank. Again, that nonprofit corporation can come in with those lots, put affordable housing on those lots, and have people to invest in those, and people can buy those. And of course, the story goes on, and I know I got a time limit.
Thank you.
Go to my webpage.
Thank you, Candidate Avery. Candidate Ford.
So, Mr. Avery stated about the land bank. I think that's an excellent idea. I think it was set up excellent. There's a guy named Dave Cummins who owns Plumbers Wholesale who has taken advantage of it, and he's built, I think, 80-something houses over here in South Gadsden. And if you notice, they all look alike. And what he does, he goes in and he finances them for people, and then after 2 to 3 years, he turns around and he sells them to the people when they can get on their feet for mortgages. I think it's a great opportunity what his family has done. He's doing it because he loves the community and he's from here, but not everybody understands it, like Robert was saying. It sometimes can be a scary or difficult thing, but we have to take advantage of that. I love Robert's idea, not stealing his idea, but about having everybody zoned in a district about your cleanup detail. I'm a logistics officer in the Guard. That makes total sense to me. But I also strongly believe we have to rely on our faith-based initiatives with our churches. Churches can go in areas and they can go in and help improve neighborhoods. They can help clean up stuff that the city workers cannot because of the liability. So I think that's something that we have to engage. Part of our mayor's cabinet, if we do fortunate enough to win the race, we're going to have a director of faith-based initiative that organizes with the church to help with the homeless and help with our drug problems and also help with the cleanup efforts. And I think I heard my alarm.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Candidate Worthy.
Yes. You know, before I ran for office, we started a nonprofit. It's called Gadsden Empowerment Initiative, where we go in and we fix up the elderly and disabled homes. And to date, we've completed 34 projects. So that's 34 homes that we didn't knock down. But people don't want to live next to this. These different houses, I wish y'all could see the pictures of the houses that we do knock down because they look awful. We ain't knocking down houses that we could go in and fix because our building department, Mr. Brian Harbison, him and his crew, they go into each one of these houses and they let us know if they could be salvaged or not, whether we could put money into it to save the house. But we don't own the houses, so we can't just go fix them up. So we can continue to try to help the community. And what I propose is we start a consortium with the different other cities within the county. That's the only way you can receive federal dollars to build affordable housing. And when we do start this consortium, The young lady that's over our community development program, she came from Anniston. They had a consortium down there, so they received federal dollars. So she's experienced. They built affordable houses. And what we want to do is build affordable housing, build affordable apartments, build the apartments where the businesses are on the bottom floor, and you have a daycare center on the bottom floor. So the tenants that live there, when they go to work, all they got to do is come downstairs, drop their kids off, and go to work.
Thank you, Candidate Worthy. Your comments always kind of give us a segue into the last question that I wanted to ask, and you all again have received these. And if there are audience members who are interested in asking that question, if you could go ahead and come down front, it would be to my left and your right. We would appreciate it. So you were talking, essentially your comments, most of your comments have been around really the community working together and also the mayor working together as an elected official. So the question I have, and this is the final question, how are you going to have a citizens forum, or would you have a citizens forum once a month whereby you're able to get information to citizens, and how would you better communicate with citizens in Gadsden?
Yes, most definitely we will have a forum. Not only that, before I submit a budget to the council, I would like to have a town hall meeting to get the community's input in what they want to see in this city. And we may not be able to do all of it because our budget is around $54 million. 71% of our budget goes to personnel and their benefits. So that don't leave a whole lot for all these other things that we want to do. But we can sit down and talk about it, get the public's input, and we've tried to do this several times, but for whatever reason, we didn't have the support to do that. But I think it's very important to give the community a chance to hear what's going on in the budget and also put their input into the budget.
Thank you. Candidate Avery?
Oh, okay. I served 24 years on the Gadsden City Council, and that's again, it's getting dark, so I can do a little bit more counting since I'm with the night school. That equates to 288 meetings that I had. That was one meeting per month. Every month that I was in office, I had a community meeting. Now, if you heard people out there talking, say they hadn't seen me or they couldn't get in touch with me, they were lying. Because every third Saturday, I had a meeting at the Carver Community Center. Every third Saturday. If there wasn't nobody there but me or two other people, I was there. So that equates to 288 meetings over those 24 years, which means I almost had over 300 meetings because there were some months I had 2 meetings, depending on what was going on in the community. I say all that to say this: as mayor, I'm going to encourage each council member to have a community meeting once a month. But as mayor, I'm going to have a quarterly meeting with the citizens of this city to keep people informed. I know I couldn't do it once a month as mayor, but I can at least do it quarterly. And those are one of the things that I will do. And again, my record speaks for itself in keeping up that promise.
Thank you, Candidate Avery. Candidate Ford?
Yes, with so much with technology, you have Facebook, you have all these other ways. I hope someone is knowledgeable enough other than me to organize that. But I do watch the council meeting sometime on TV, and nothing against you, Councilman Worthy, but sometimes, boy, it's like watching paint dry. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with just some of those people that like to get up there and yammer. But there's more that we can do. You can do Facebook Live. You can do neighborhood meetings. I think you can do during COVID, you could have had a lot of Facebook Live like you're doing tonight. There's a lot of presentations you can do with the council members. I think everywhere you go into a council person's district, you need to go with the council person. That person needs to be with you. I think you need to have monthly neighborhood meetings. We have community centers just about in every district where I think we could have meetings. And I think we need to rely on people like you to help organize meetings where we can come. I don't think it has to be just the mayor. I think you can say, hey, we're going to have a meeting and we ask you to come. And if you don't come, I hope you don't allow that person to work for you again as your mayor or your council member. But yes, I plan on doing that in all ways of all technology that's possible.
All right. Thank you, so much for your answers to our questions on this evening. At this time, we are going to allow our audience to pose questions. There is a microphone down front. It probably will need to be turned on, and we will give you all a minute and a half to respond to the questions that are posed. The folks who are posing the questions, no dissertations, just a question, please. I'm trying to be nice.
Okay, real brief. Recently, there was a situation with the rendering plant and the IDA here in the city of Gadsden. We took a tremendous black eye in the newspaper and with the Commerce Department. You candidates aware of that. How do you correct our image with Montgomery, who is the father of all these new industrial opportunities? How do you correct that? What would you do in that situation? I think it was handled poorly. And how do we correct that?
Well,
Candid Worthy.
yeah, really, you said that we took a black eye. We did in the media. But first, the Commerce Department, I called down and spoke with them about will they give us another plant, another industry. And what I was told, it doesn't affect it, because what they do is they send out to the cities, like they sent out this Pilgrim Pride to the cities. And if you meet the criteria that the industry is looking for, then you can say, okay, yes, you want it, or you don't. You'll look at it. See, but we didn't even have a chance to vote on it. And that's something I would like to change, because at least the council people should know what's coming. It shouldn't just be the mayor, the IDA director, and the economic advisor to decide which companies can come here and which can't. See, because they have to sign those non-disclosure agreements that they don't tell the council. The council need to be in on it from the beginning, because we were elected just like the mayor, and we represent the public. We represent each district. So therefore, we could have headed this off before it got to this point. But what we can do is we can try to put better qualified people on these different boards, and then the city, the mayor needs to sit back and let them do their job.
Time. Thank you, Candidate Ford.
Okay, that's a great question, but I'll tell you this, and I just disagree a little bit with Councilman Worthy. ADO Director, or Department of Commerce, Greg Canfield, is a friend of mine. It does matter how we handled that, and I've been in those meetings when I was in the legislature for over 18 years about recruiting industry and bringing plants or anything to your area. Number one, you better be in good favor with the ADO guy. Number two, you better be in good favor with the governor's office. It doesn't necessarily mean the governor. It could be Liz Fillmore, who's chief of staff. Then you better be in good with some of the lobbyists that are helping represent that company. And you better have a good image on Google.com. So when Hyundai, I was part of the group helping recruit and pass legislation to bring Hyundai to Montgomery. They didn't like the education system, so they decided to go south to Greenville, Alabama. But part of that was the image of what was being portrayed out of that city or that county. There was a lot of infighting with the mayor and the council at the time, county commissioners. It was a mess. So one, we got to work together. We got to put this behind us, and we got to start building a better image. Like David Bronner said with RSA, retirement systems, when an industry's coming to look at your area, go as simple as get your pressure washer out and start cleaning up your sidewalks, because image is everything. So I hope I answered your question, but we got to move forward, and we got to build a better image, and we got to be transparent, and we got to be open about what's coming, and we can't punt that football to different agencies and blame it on them or blame it on them. The mayor's got to take control, and he's got to be in charge, but he needs the IDA reporting directly to the mayor's office. They don't need a buffer zone. He needs to be directed to report directly to the mayor. So I hope that answers.
Thank you. Candidate Avery.
I don't think either one of them really answered your question. I think you also asked them about their position on the plan. Were they in favor of it or opposed to it? I was in favor of the plan. And why I was in favor of the plan is because it was a decent paying job for our people. You know, you can talk about how it smelled or what it did or anything. It was a decent job with decent pay. So I was in favor of it. You're correct, there is a black eye on this community. And I don't care what the folk down in Montgomery said, that it didn't hurt us. Believe me, it hurt us in recruiting. It hurt us badly in recruiting. And I think Brother Ford said that, and I think he even said that there are non-disclosure forms that are signed. And that's for a reason, because what happened, someone who signed that form got the word out to somebody else, and that's how this whole thing started. Because the guy who started this thing was the guy who didn't want that plant because it was going to cost them money. See, I'm like a broke refrigerator. I can't keep nothing. So I'm going to tell what happened. And that's what happened. And so you got to have the non-disclosure. You got to have that because that could happen again. And I've been involved in some recruiting as a city council member because they trusted me with that information.
Well, let me leave you with this thought, and I'm going to step away from the mic. I'm the president of the IDA. There are slots on our board for mayors in this community. The city of Gadsden is the only entity that does not have a regular presence at our meeting. So when whichever one of you gentlemen or whomever becomes our next mayor in this community should look at that. I mean, this situation could have been headed off long before it got in the court system. Be aware of that. Thank you.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes.
Now, I agree with you now. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, we took a black eye for the public, and it hurt our recruiting efforts. And even what they're doing to this day on everything is so negative on Facebook from the opposition group. Everything you see on there is negative. So that is hurting us.
And those people who are negative are not citizens.
One other thing.
Thank you.
I got to say this because everybody needs to know this. There were 42 people who spoke against the plant when they had the public hearing. 42 people. Only 4 of those people lived in the city of Gadsden. No, it was just 4. 4 people lived in the city of Gadsden who spoke against the plant. So that means everybody else lived outside the city.
So clearly, some of the questions we've asked tonight around engagement.
I got to tell the 4 people.
No, you don't have to tell the 4 people, candidate Avery. But it is clearly important that we have participation, that we have people show up. Because I can tell you this, if you are not at the table, you are on the menu. And if you've ever, got together with your family and it was decided who was going to make the dressing, the macaroni cheese, or whatever it is, and you didn't show up to that meeting, you're trying to figure out who told me I had to bake the cake. It's because you didn't come to the meeting. So we have to have people show up in the community. We want to thank you, Mr. Avery.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming as well. As candidates, good to see you. Great forum thus far. So we talked about keeping what can happen to keep our young people interested in staying in the city of Gadsden. As it relates to jobs, I want to present one question to all of you equally concerning positions at City Hall, because our young people it's necessary that our young people be in the process concerning city government. 19 plus department heads and management in the administration total out at the amount of $1 million+ salary. There are not any current diverse nor the majority of those that are department heads and management are not within the city limits, okay, live within the city limits. Will you as mayor make available a diverse administration and departments, meaning department heads and management? And will you recruit within the city limits the hiring of those candidates?
Candidate Avery.
Yes, very simple. You change the job description and the requirements. The requirements is if you're a department head, you live inside the city limits of Gadsden, plain and simple. Ends that question. And of course, as far as diversity, absolutely. The best qualified person, not because they're my buddy, or not because they're my neighbor, or not because they're my friend. And I think if we go with those criteria, you're going to have a diverse group of individuals heading up departments.
Thank you. Candidate Ford.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of my positions that I want to create on our cabinet is the Director of Diversity and Inclusion. I think that's important, and I think it's important for everyone to have that. But the answer to your question is yes. That is, it pains me that we have to live in Gadsden to represent you, but maybe our department heads don't have to live in Gadsden. And yes, that is an issue. And I legally, I'd like to ask the legal department first, but you know, I know you can do bidding process. If someone lives in your area, they get a 10% ratio in the bid where they can be 10% higher, but they get the bid even though they're in your area. I would love to do a hiring where you also get preferential treatment if you live in the city limits of Gadsden.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy.
Yes, most definitely. Our department heads, we will have a diverse department head. But for us making them live in the city, I don't think we could do that legally because I know it was a federal court case that stated you couldn't do that. So we would have to revisit that and go back and look at that and check with the legal department to see if that's even, if we can think about something like that. But yes, we need to because if the city of Gadsden is good enough for you to make your living in, it should be good enough for you to live here.
And can I just say,
Yes, sir.
Which I think Councilman Worthy's right on that legally.
It's not
But,
legal.
you know, if you're interviewing somebody, you might know where they live. So, you know, that may also have an input if the mayor gets to do the hiring.
Again, you make it in the job requirement. If it's in the job requirement, plain and simple. Why are you going to apply for a job when the requirement says you got to live inside the city and you're going to move outside or buy a house someplace else? I don't care what the law says or what whoever says it. If that's part of the job description and that's part of the requirements, then you live in the city.
Thank you. I think we have another question from the audience.
Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good to see all of you tonight. I appreciate you coming out. We know that when you back it up
No.
Closer.
close. Oh,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. We know that as when you get to be in office, your first 100 days is going to be very important as what your agenda look like and what you plan to achieve those first 100 days. My question is, how do you plan to change the system and the atmosphere which is in the city of Gadsden within those first 100 days?
You want me to go first? I guess since I'm going to be there, I guess they want me to go first.
That's good.
That's a good one. Plain and simple. You get all your department heads together and you say, this is X, this is Y, and this is Z. This is how we're going to do it. Now, everybody in here who wants to do that, raise their hand. Okay? And everybody who don't raise their hand, you show them where the door is.
Can I repeat your question after that? I got confused.
What is your plan within your first 100 days to help change the system? We know we don't have the system in Gadsden right now is not working for the majority of the citizens.
Right.
It's a click system.
Yeah, right.
We want the click system gone. Want to know, what do you plan to do to get that system going?
Well, one is image, and number two is like Robert was saying, you got a new sheriff in town. And I believe whoever's at the top, their personality and the way they lead by example will filter down. If it doesn't filter down, you're going to do what Robert says, or I'm going to do what Robert says, or Thomas is going to do what Robert says. But there's no room for mediocrity. I believe Gadsden's at a crossroads. I truly believe this. And I believe this administration is either going to take Gadsden to a better place for a long time to come, not just for however long time this mayor serves, or it's either going to go to a worse place for a long, long, long time. So I believe it's important that this administration relays to them, and he leads by example, and he's very honest, and he's very open and transparent, but he's very stern also. But in the first 100 days, we're going to create some opportunities. Number one, we're going to tear down Convention Hall. Number two, we're going to move City Hall, and we're going to create a new image in Gadsden. And we're going to start looking for some people to want to do some private-public partnerships in the city of Gadsden, what I'm going to call the Gadsden Corridor, and try to bring in some development. And I think that would be important. And I think also your employees, like Councilman Worthy said earlier, you got to look at the pay structure. I met a gentleman the other day that works at the Eurobrand Community Center that makes under, I think, $9 an hour. And he's been there for 12 years. It's pitiful. I mean, and the job that he does is just as important as the mayor's job. And he needs to know that, and they need to be appreciated. And that's something I've always prided myself in the military. The lowest ranking soldier, I always speak to them and I tell them I appreciate them, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do what I do as a major in the Army.
All right, thank you. Candidate Worthy?
Yes, ma'am. In the first 100 days, first thing we have to do is change the mindset, not only of the employees, but of the community, of the city of Gadsden. And what we're going to do is let them know that we care about them and we love them. And we're going to give them a raise. It may not be what they want, but we're going to give them a raise, what we can afford, because we're not going to break the bank. We're not going to go bankrupt. But then we're going to meet with all of the employees and let them know this. And then we're going to start holding them accountable. Because right now, the department heads, we could call a department head and talk to that department head, and if they don't tell us the truth, if they tell us something that's misleading, it's no accountability. We're gonna hold them accountable. And when I said returning power to the people, I'm gonna give the power to the city council. Each one of them would be the chairman of a subcommittee, and they'll be over a department. I'm going to give them the permission to call that department head and be able to talk to that department head. It'll be just like the mayor calling them. And if they don't tell them the truth, then they'll be held accountable.
When you say held accountable, what are you saying?
Excuse me?
What are you saying when you say held accountable? What do you
They're
mean?
going to be written up, because you can't just fire somebody right off the bat. You have to have a paper trail. So they will be written up, they will be counseled. And then if they continue, then we would get rid of them. That's being held accountable.
Thank you. We have another question from the audience?
Hello. I need to, I've heard about all of the schools and the employees. I'd like to know what your plans are as far as the mental health and the homelessness that has plagued this city.
Great question.
I have seen in other cities where you have more than just a warming station from 8 to 5. And, we've got to do better than that, because after 5 o'clock becomes the struggle.
Okay.
So I'd like to know what is your plans for
Candidate Worthy?
My plan is to build a homeless shelter. The city itself can't do it, but we could give the money to nonprofit. We have a lot of nonprofits out here that's working with the homeless. You got Brother Word, you have Brother Brown at the not the Love Center, but the Way of the Cross. We could partner with them and not only just build the homeless shelter, but I envision that we have everything they need on site: mental health, medical. And then we could, I don't look at homeless as being a negative. A lot of people around here, they look at it as a negative, but we can get them reincorporated into the community and be productive citizens. They could go to Gadsden State free. The Career Center in the state has all kinds of programs that'll pay them pay for their schooling over at Gadsden State to get a skill, and we can make them productive citizens. That's what I would love to do, because I'm already working with the homeless community with Brother Word and the Browns over at the Way of the Cross.
Thank you, Candidate Worthy. Candidate Ford?
So I envision in Birmingham, there's something called First Light. I don't know if you ever heard of that, but my wife volunteers down there once a month. And you go down there, and it's a female place, and the females go to work. They come in after 5. No men are allowed, and they serve them a hot meal. They give them the necessary whatever they need to shower and hygiene, and then they sleep on cots in an area, and it allows them a place to go to get away, whether they're homeless or abused or whatever it is. And then the next morning they get up and they go to work, and then the church, the faith base, it's a nonprofit, comes in and cleans it up. You need one for men and women. I had a homeless person I was helping, and I called one of the organizations in town. I'm not going to mention it. And they said, well, he's already stayed his limit for the year of 1 or 2 nights. And I was kind of confused. I thought, well, he's homeless. So it didn't make any sense to me. So we don't have that here. We need it. And this isn't just a problem in our city. And there's no city, Mountain Brook, Alabama, with all the money in the world, they have a homeless problem also. It's according to how you address it from the mayor's office. And that's what I plan on doing, is trying to help. There's plenty of empty buildings, and to work with the county commission and to work with the other government entities, but mainly the churches, and involve that person I mentioned earlier, the faith-based initiative director, to come in and help create that and be a liaison between the mayor's office and the churches to help that take place.
Thank you. Candidate Avery?
Thanks to former President Donald Trump, believe it or not, faith-based groups now have plenty of federal dollars for homelessness and mental health and some other things that they're passing along with what President Biden is doing. I was working with a group out of California, I guess it's been 6 months, about a year ago, that was trying to come into Gadsden and purchase one of the high-rise buildings, and I won't go into details about it. But one of their things were going to be, once they got that building fixed, they were going to go over. As a matter of fact, they did do it. And I think Councilman Worthy can probably attest to it. Did y'all take the abatement off of the apartments over in East Gadsden? Yeah. Okay. What their plans were to take those apartments and fix them up, the end parts, so the people out of one of those buildings that they were going to purchase could stay in there till they fixed it and put them back in. But then they were going to take Garden Terrace apartments for homeless people. So there's people working on it, and there's plans to do those type things. You just got to have people in the right place to do it.
And
Thank
can I
you.
add to that,
So as you
ma'am?
all know, we have a question that's come from online, from streaming as well. If that's
It's
go
about
ahead.
homeless. Well,
No,
I'm just
sir.
gonna let you know, HUD just approved a $2.8 billion to help the homeless. So it's plenty of money out there to help the homeless.
Okay, thank you. Trying to make my job difficult. So as you all know, we are streaming on YouTube and Facebook. And so we have a question that was posed online. This could be, there's 2, but this could be a yes or no. I'm pretty sure you all will say yes to this, but this is from the Real Talk audience. Will you vow to make Gadsden a city that all citizens will be proud to live in, give attention to the areas in Gadsden that has been deprived, and not just the proud areas, but the poverty areas also? Will you vow to do that?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. And
Yes.
this is another question from Miss Erica Ratney, who is also live streaming in on Real Talk. If you love this city and you want what is best for the city, if you don't win, oh, this was my question, Erica. If you do not win, who would you support as mayor, and would you work with them to bring this city forward?
I'll say that first. I'm not a sore loser. Whoever wins mayor, I'm going to support them. Whoever the people choose, that's going to be my mayor, because I'm a citizen and a resident of Gadsden too. But I'll help them. I'll work with them. I'll do everything I can with my connections through Montgomery and Washington to help whoever the current mayor is be successful.
Thank you. Candidate Avery?
Thanks for your support, Bro Forward. You know, I've been working in this city since 1963. I want to repeat that again. I've been working in this city since 1963. And we've had 3 or 4 or 5 mayors from that time to now. I've worked in this city, and after I be mayor, who the next mayor would be, I'll still be working in this city.
And I'll say something before Thomas does, just give him a acclimate too. But when Goodyear shut down in 2019, I went in the legislature and I put together a meeting with Senator Doug Jones and just said, we have to get attention to Akron, Ohio to let people know. Because when I was in the legislature in 05, we put together a package of 30 million to keep them there. But Robert was there, Thomas was there, saw county commissioners there, Republicans, Democrats. And what was funny was the majority of them weren't elected. And I thought that was important. But the ones that were elected just didn't show up. And I thought that was a problem. So, I couldn't get the chamber involved. I couldn't get other people involved. And it just really bothered me that we're losing Gadsden Goodyear plant and nobody was paying attention to it. So thanks to these guys too.
Right. That's not candidate worthy.
Yes, most definitely. I would help and work with whoever wins, because I will not undermine them, because if that person, whoever gets in office, fail, then our city fails. So it's all about continuing to help and to support that person. And that person will make mistakes along the way, because that's just part of life. We all make mistakes, but you have to support them and don't undermine them. And that's the problem in our city right today.
Well, just for protocol, it looks like we have a question before us and we have one more question from online. And do you have a question? So I'm good to close. I wanted to give the candidates maybe 2 minutes closing out comments, and then we could basically end our program for tonight. You have other questions? If you all have questions, please go ahead and come forward. As long as you all are courtesy enough to the candidates and you all are willing to stay here and answer the questions, we will stay here as long as the citizens
stay
want
here
to
all
have their
night
questions. Okay, but we do want to be appropriate. Yes, sir. Question from the floor.
My question is, how would you specifically work with our superintendent and our school system to steer our children into career tech careers? Because let me tell you something. I was a job coach here. These kids graduate from high school in electrical and robotics and stuff. They can make a living wage in Gadsden.
Absolutely.
Only 25% of our kids are going to college. Everybody else is going to need a job. So what specifically would you do to work with the superintendent of schools to get them to adhere to those criteria?
Candidate Avery.
Mr. Billingsley, I think you went on one of those trips to Georgia to that high school over there. And I'm a strong proponent of tech programs. And the reason I am is very simple. I went to my doctor the other day, and it cost me $45 for my doctor visit. I went in, doctor saw me, did what he could do. I went home, and I had a leak in my faucet. And when I called the plumber, I said, I got a leak in my faucet. I said, can you come out and fix it? He said, oh, yeah. It'd be $75 for the house call. You know what I did? I hung up the phone. I picked up my phone, and I called the doctor. I said, do you do plumbing? Because that's a lot cheaper to get the doctor to do it than a plumber. People with those type of skills can make a great living.
So Billy, yes, and one thing is we're fortunate to have what we're about to have over at Gadsden State. We have to encourage these kids and work with the school system. We have to help Dr. Reddick and his staff, and we have to provide them the funding and the resources. We're the mayor and the council. We're not a PhD in education. So I've always said I want to help and support these people and get out of their way and help direct these kids and have a relationship with Kathy Murphy over at Gadsden State. And we can do that through the city. The city can offer multiple incentives. When we were able to retain Gadsden Goodyear plant, we came up with 30 million. 20 million was in cash that we got for Goodyear to keep them here. And the other 10 million was training dollars through the Bevel Center. So that's how important that was. And that allowed us to keep 1,200 jobs. So that, yes, important.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy.
Yes, ma'am. To that question, that's a great question. We have to help the school system with technology, with helping our kids go to Gadsden State. Like I mentioned earlier, we have all kind of programs that the state will pay for you to go over to Gadsden State, get your associate degree in a skill, or get your certification. So yes, it behooves us to help the superintendent in the school system, because these jobs, these skilled jobs, we can rebuild our own community with these skilled jobs. And it doesn't help when we have these radio personalities on the radio just down in the skilled labor force. It doesn't make sense. And they, like you just said, they could go to school to get an associate degree and make more than what these 4-year college grads are making, and they don't have that student loan.
All right, thank you. Commissioner.
My question is based on how strong are you as the mayor to take that leadership role with so much outside influence attacking Gadsden, and so many people want to run Gadsden from outside of Gadsden to make decisions for the citizens in Gadsden? How strong is your stand on keeping outside influence from coming in on your decision making?
That is a great question. Would you like to
Go ahead, Candidate Worthy?
Because I said this the other night at the Mayor's Association dinner. See, we playing checkers. They playing chess. And I told them, when I become mayor, no other city in this county will annex not 1 inch of Gadsden into their city. See, that's the plan. They're talking about it. The rumor is out there for them to annex Country Club and Clubville into Rainbow City. So we fighting amongst each other, and we need to stop that and start making our leaders work with each other in our community before we all be left behind.
Candidate Ford.
Yeah, well, first of all, I hope the Gadsden first and foremost. And I think if Gadsden is successful, I don't think these other bedroom communities are going to be successful. That's my personal opinion. I represent a lot of these communities in the legislature. It's been very difficult for me, and I can take the heat. I'm pretty good at taking the heat. I got a strong-willed wife too. So, but I've been very outspoken about what you just said, Commissioner. And you're going to get a lot of mail pieces in your mailbox in the next 17 days regarding that subject. I'm not going to put up with this outside group trying to control these elections, whether whoever wins or whoever tries to succeed in Gadsden. That can't be done. It disturbs me that some mayors from Rainbow City and Southside have given one of the candidates as chamber director almost over $20,000 through a PAC called the Community PAC, which is controlled by the attorney, Christy Knowles, and the rest of this group that came after Gadsden. And they did a good job in what they were trying to do. They succeeded and stopped the rendering plant, but then they turned it into a political PAC to try to control the elections in the city of Gadsden. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to stand up to them. I'm not going to allow it to happen. And I'm going to call them out on it. And the only person that won in this rendering plant thing was the attorney. And the losers, we had to end up paying over almost $500,000 of attorney fees to defend against all these lawsuits, when one attorney on the other side made about $500,000. So, I was opposed to the rendering plant. I think they did a good job in what they were trying to do. However, now it's turned into a political organization of outside mayors and municipalities to try to control the Gadsden election. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm telling you the truth. So if you don't, just pay attention to what's going on and you'll see it. So that's where I stand.
Candidate Avery.
Commissioner, I think I spoke up very early about my support for the plant, for those jobs, and I will continue to do that. But I'm not sure what outside forces you're talking about, because I don't hear nothing. So if somebody out there talking, I don't pay no attention to them. So I don't hear them. So I'm not sure what you're talking about.
A question from online, and Candidate Ford, you may have alluded to this, but they wanted to know, will you contest, as so many others are doing, if you lose the election? I don't know. I'm reading the online questions.
I'm not going to cuss, but no. No, I trust what's going on. I trust Ivan Elson. I think does an excellent job at the city of Gadsden. I think our clerk's office does a great job.
Excellent
Listen,
job.
I'm going to live and by the will of the people. And if I win, I win. I'm not looking for a job. I don't need a job. I got plenty of jobs, but I'm doing this because I love Gadsden and I want to see Gadsden prosper. And I'm trying to offer myself up to work for you. So no, I'm not going to contest it.
That's good.
And I'm not going to move to the beach.
Candidate Worthy, same question.
No, I won't contest it.
Thank you. Candidate Avery.
Well, you know, I'm not sure. Everybody I've talked to in this city said they're going to vote for me. And any other candidate might contest that. But no, seriously, I mean, you can't contest it. I mean, we run an honest, and like you said, the city clerk in Gadsden is probably the most non-political person that I've ever met. And so why you want to contest an election like that? No, sir. Ain't no way.
I just plug in a personal commercial right here. I just want to commend you all first again for your presence tonight. And you've been very cordial to each other. You really represented the Gadsden that I remember growing up in the Gadsden that I try to represent outside of the city. We have a comedian here. We have, you know, you have a plethora of knowledge and experiences. And so I think for those that have shown up tonight and the citizens that are here watching and those listening online, we should be proud of these candidates that are before us that is asking for our confidence in voting for them. And so I just wanted to say that thank you all for the respect that you all have displayed amongst each other, the accolades you've given one another during the times that you have served in different positions. We have a question before us.
First of all, I would just say you all have done a wonderful job at answering questions. And the people behind me, I think that we should give all of them an applause for doing such an awesome job and keeping things together. I have so much respect for the three of you that are on this panel right now for the simple fact of an understanding that you all have been in some position of government, which is great. And the candidates, and I don't know where the other candidates are, but I'm going to say this, I hate that they're not here on tonight, because what it does is whatever your plans are, it gives them the opportunity to understand what you're trying to do, what you're saying, and try to repeat what you're saying and not having the knowledge or the know-how to get it done. So I commend you all for being here. I commend you all for your service of work. My question that I want to ask on tonight is, what would be how would you move this city forward in public development economically?
Candidate Ford, you lean forward first.
Yeah. So one thing is you got to look at the books. You got to look at your bond ratio. You got to look at your rating as a city. And this is something I did in the legislature with some of the other stuff when I was on budget committee, recruiting industry with what we called a DECA back then. Now it's Department of Commerce. But we have to identify our potential land that is available for development. You got to look at power, all your utilities. Then you have to develop a master plan. And that's something that, as far as I know, we don't have now, but we need a master plan. So you put an RFP out, a request for a proposal, as soon as you take office, and you get 3 in, and you take a master plan and you present it before the council and you adopt one. Well, that's your kind of your Bible to go by for the city development, industrial development. So that's kind of the project part. The other part is, as somebody mentioned earlier, building the morale, building our image, and going out and recruiting industry. And then the other thing, Walt Maddox from Tuscaloosa, they are a Class 4 municipality. In Alabama, they rated classes of municipalities back in the 80s, and us in Tuscaloosa are the only Class 4 municipalities in the state. So when the Alabama legislature passes a bill that affects Class 4 municipalities for Tuscaloosa, it also affects us. So we need to go sit down, and Walt's a friend of all of ours, he's a friend of mine, and sit down with them because they're doing well. They're growing. Now, they do have a campus in there that helps, but they did have a campus in there about 10 years ago, and they weren't doing well. So I commend Walt Maddox and their council and what they're doing, and we got to go see what works for them that can work for us. And, you know, just because they have a campus doesn't mean that's why they're doing well, because sometimes that can go against you, because a lot of companies may not want to come with that many youth around or something. I don't know. But I've heard him speak. He's excellent. And then Tommy Battles is a friend of mine, the mayor of Huntsville. He's in a lot of the defense system and all that, understand. But why can't we get spinoffs that they can accommodate here in Gadsden or Etowah County? One is identify land, look at your financial rating, your bond, see what you can do for future development, and then build your image.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy?
Yes. We are really, our finances are in good shape in Gadsden. We have a little over $20 million in what we call an undesignated fund account. It's for emergencies. We have to keep 16 million in there for 3 months of operating expenses. So what we have to continue to do is build relationships, work together we need one IDA in this county. We don't need several. We need one to recruit for the whole county. Because we've had incidents where we had companies that wanted to come here, and they maybe thought that the land that they were looking at was in Gadsden, and then it turned out it wasn't in Gadsden, it was in Etowah County. Then they just leave because they don't know who to go talk to. So we need to have one person in charge. See, because the county had their own IDA director. Well, they did. I think she just resigned, but not too long ago. Then Rainbow City has someone. So we need to just all get on one page, and we can recruit these different companies to come in here. But we got to stop this negativity, because companies we got to get the crime rate under control. Because when companies come to look, they before they move there, they want to look at the crime rate. They're going to look at the educational system. So we got to get all this up. Then they, not only that, they look at the parks and stuff to make sure the kids have, somewhere to play and different things like that. So we got to do a better job in all those areas.
Thank you. Candidate Avery?
Yes, I'm throwing shade again. We've got to make sure the people who are in those positions are qualified to be where they are supposed to be. I don't know of the city of Gadsden only having one city planner who had a degree in urban planning or had a degree in planning, period. I know the city attorney has a degree because in order to practice, he has to be a licensed attorney. So I know he's got a degree in his field. Now, when you leave those two, I don't know what's going on and who got degrees and who's qualified to be in the position they're in. So if you want to get this city going and get a plan and get everything going ahead, you got to make sure you got people in the right position with the right qualifications, with the right skills to get that done. And that's one of the problems that this city has had over the years. Because like I said, we've only had one city planner, to my knowledge. And ever since I've been involved in city government 40, 50 years ago, one city planner who had a degree in urban planning, and everybody else got their job just by being there. They outlive somebody else, and they outlive somebody else. And you probably got that in some other positions too. So we're going to look at all of that.
Thank you, candidates.
And that planner was Mr. Charles Ball. Now he's the planner for the BJCC, and you look at what's going on down there now.
Can we get him back?
I would love to, but I don't think we can afford him now.
Yeah, he will come back. I've talked to him.
So we have one more question in person, and then there's one last question from online, and then we will allow you all a couple minutes to close out.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes.
I'd like to ask you something about finances. You know, in this city, we have a lot of areas they call the hood. And so it's a lot of money that the city get. They get it from the federal government, and the city have a surplus, if I'm not mistaken. That's what you was talking about, Mr. Word, a while ago. And a lot of the money, what is coming from the federal government of the city, you have certain money that you don't spend in certain areas of the hood and the poor areas in this city. I've been in meetings and I've heard that before. And a lot of the people's probably that's listening in don't even know that kind of stuff. That money is not being spent in their neighborhood because of certain rules and laws and regulations. Now, my question is this. What are you going to do to change that so that it will be different?
Mr. Avery.
Yes. I didn't talk about a lot of things that I'm involved in. I work for my wife, by the way. My wife is back there, and I appreciate her being here. We have a consulting company, and I do consulting work for a number of municipalities throughout the South, okay? So I know what you're talking about. That money is coming in here, and I tried to get this city, this present city council, to take those $24 million and do human infrastructure with those dollars. But they decided they want to do infrastructure. And why would you spend $24 million that's very flexible, that you can do a lot of different things with it to help human infrastructure, when they just passed a $1.9 trillion infrastructure bill to do bridges and ditches and all that stuff? What they should have done, or what I would have done, because I've got some cities that did do that, they took some of that money, they did their engineering work, they got their projects ready, okay? And now that the $1.9 trillion is available, a couple of my cities got grants last month when they started releasing the money because they had done their pre-work and they were ready to go. We're not ready to go. And a lot of cities are going to miss out on that 1.9 trillion because they didn't have their project ready to go when this money was released.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy.
Yes. Now, we do spend the money. We get like 1.1, 1.2 million in what we call CDBG money, Community Development Block Grant money, and we have to spend that money in what you call the hood, low-income areas. So what we do with the money is we take about $500,000 of that money and we pave roads in low-income areas. We use another $200,000 to $300,000 to go in and fix up houses. We'll spend $5,000, well, $4,999 on a home. And then if you stay in that home for 5 years, then you don't pay a penny back. So we are spending, but we need to spend more. And I think my thought is we shouldn't use that money to pave roads. We should use that money for the houses and other things that we could use it for. But we have to look at doing that, and you have to get the council to go along with you because you just can't make that decision yourself as the mayor.
Candidate Ford.
I'll let you borrow.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, you know, you're talking about the hood. You know, there's bad areas in I've been knocking on every door in this city. And you know, it's changes every 4 years. I got elected in 2000 and I knocked on every door in a House district. I've been knocking on every door every time I try to run for office. And I did in 02, 06, 2010, 2014, 2018, again in 2022. It seems like a lot of the areas have gotten worse in some areas. I think sewage and drainage issues, we got too many issues there with drainage and flooding, and that helps create problems, if you call it the hood or whatever it is, the bad areas. But we had to fix that as a city first. There are multiple grants that we have never applied for on the federal level that would allow us to receive funds, not at our taxpayers' expense, to help improve these neighborhoods. I think one thing is the police, like you heard earlier, we're 20-something policemen short. You got to address the pay situation. You got to have police precincts in council districts rather than have one city hall where all the policemen report to. You can have substations like they have started in other cities, and there's grants for those also. And you get more community involvement with our police protection on a friendly level in the neighborhoods. But you got to fix your sewage and drainage. You got to apply for the grants, and you got to be able to improve the neighborhoods, curb and gutters. You got to do all sorts of things. But it's a team effort in every department. But why not go get these grants that are free to us, not at our taxpayers' expense here in Gadsden?
Thank you. Candidate Avery? Did you answer that? I'm sorry.
I thought I did, but I'll
Yeah.
do it again.
No. Can I add
Is
something
it
to that?
worthy?
No, I answered
I-
it too, but I
okay.
want to add something to it. We do have a couple precincts. We got one over there at the Old American Center, and we got the precinct over in East Gadsden. So we're trying to branch out, and we need more in each community. So I just wanted to add that.
Since you added that, let me add one other thing.
Okay.
Because as soon as I get there, we're going to hire more officers, and we're going to take them out of those patrol cars and put them back on the street. When I was a kid, Officer Friendly, Officer John, I knew Officer Sam when they walked around in my community. These guys now, they're short of help, and the first thing a young person see when the police come, they come in rushing with their sirens going, and they mad and they're scared because they don't know what's going on. Let's put them back to walking. Let's put them back in the neighborhoods. And I guarantee you, we did that at Carver. Most of you may or may not remember. When we were having problems out at Carver, I asked the chief to give me one police officer. They wouldn't do it. They gave me two. And we put 0 problems at Carver Square for a number of years. And we did that because the police officer was assigned out there. Everybody got to know Officer Russell and the other police officer. And when anything went down out there, all they had to do was walk up and say, well, who did what? Well, Officer Russell, I can't think of the other one. It wasn't Chastain. But anyway, the kids would say, it was so-and-so. He did it. They trusted those guys. Those guys had a relationship. And we got to get back to that in our community.
Thank you, candidates. We have one final question from online, and it is from the Real Talk group. The question is, do any of you have a plan for West Gadsden, Walnut Park, and the Old Mill Village?
I tried when I was on the council to take some of the community development block grant monies and started a pot. They started giving each council district $250,000. East Gadsden got it, and they did some things with theirs. When they gave me my $250,000 for my district, I went to every bank in this town and asked them to put up to pledge $250,000 toward a loan pool. We were going to take that monies, and in order to get the council to support me, I targeted Tuscaloosa Avenue, Ewing Avenue, East Broad, Wall Street as the areas that money was going to be used in. You take $250,000 of community development block grant funds, you make that easy money or soft money. Each bank, let's say a guy needed $100,000 to go into business, we would get, I think there was 7 of them at the time. Those 7 banks would put up $10,000 a piece. They don't have a lot invested in it. The banks will love that idea. You take the $30,000 out of the community development block grant, boom, you got a business set up in those communities, and you start developing those areas. You take the revenue from those new businesses and make a TIF, and I think you're familiar with that. You make a TIF district, and all the new monies go into that district, and they can only be spent to start new businesses. It's not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. It's just simple stuff.
Thank you. Candidate Ford?
So part of our plan, if you'll look at our Facebook page, is we released a video again today. We have one more coming, but is making Alabama City an arts district. You already have the Ritz Theater over in that area. I believe we have a lot of potential here in our area for arts and entertainment. You can have street concerts. You can have there's multiple grants through Lee Centel and the Director of Tourism. If you create an arts district and you start looking for some areas, and there's plenty of buildings over there that are empty that would be happy to be able to be accommodated by some type of arts project. So that's something that I'm interested in. I'd like to see happen for that area, and I think it would help improve the neighborhoods. And now Walnut Park's a little different. The Mill Village and Alabama City are kind of in hand. Walnut Park's kind of down the road a little bit, but for Walnut Park, it is driven by the school. It's a neighborhood with a school and a community center. So I'm not sure what activities are offered in the activity centers or whatever, but we can enhance those and do listen to the people and what they want in Walnut Park, and we'll provide it through our Parks and Rec.
Thank you. Candidate Worthy?
Yes, that's why it's so important for us to have a master plan. We have to have we haven't had a master plan since the 70s, 74, 76, and have a qualified, and Mr. Avery alluded to this, have a qualified planner. Where that planner can do his job and plan. And then we could also get the different colleges. I think Auburn University will come up and help do the plan. Alabama A&M, because they have master programs for planning. And then you got a rural and you got a urban area that they could deal with for this master plan. And then we can go from there and get the input from the citizens instead of trying to piecemeal one area at a time. We need to do a study of all the areas and figure out what we can do. And then it's so important, like I said before, to start that consortium where we can start rebuilding these homes. Affordable housing, that's what we need in this city. So we have to work together with other communities, with other cities.
All right. Can we give all of these candidates a round of applause tonight? And then I'm applauding for the audience being here, because you all did not have to spend your Thursday evening here, but you came out, and it speaks volumes for what's important to us as citizens. Even though I am a native of Gadsden and I no longer live here, but all of my family is here, and I always come back home, and I spend money in Gadsden, and I'm concerned about Gadsden. But with these three candidates here, I'm very proud of each of you. It's an honor to say that I'm a product, and of the three, that one of you all will be the mayor in the city of Gadsden. And so as an elected official, I challenge you all to truly work together. You all have a lot of brilliance and intelligence and experience that the city needs to see collectively coming together. Yeah. And young people are watching. Young people are watching, and they're depending on you, even though they don't like to talk to us. I had a sixth grader, one of my church members. It was her birthday. I texted her happy birthday. She texted me today, "How are you doing?" I said, "I'm Gucci." And she laughed at me in the text message. "Why are you laughing?" She said, "You're too old to be talking like that." I think I'm still young, but I'm saying that to say they are paying attention. And so we have to challenge each other to be willing to speak the language of the young folks and speak the language of the mature folks, because we all need each other and we're depending on each other. So thank you all seriously for coming out tonight and for participating in this. 19 days before Election Day, August the 23rd, there are 19 days. And I can imagine as candidates, you're thinking about when you're going to roll out your next ad, your next door knocker, your next phone call, all of these things that are happening. And I just want to say to everyone who is here tonight that has placed your name on the ballot to say that you want to volunteer, because essentially that's what it is. Even though there are some salaries that are attached to these positions, it's never enough money for how much your heart goes into what you're doing, how much commitment you have for people who you may never get a chance to touch, but your decisions impact everything within their household. So thank you all for willing to run, for the candidates that showed up tonight and that stayed all night to answer and ask questions. We also want to thank the organizations that actually put this candidate forum together. It is the Alabama New South Coalition. It is also the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference of Gadsden, and also the Etowah County Voters League. And of course, we want to thank Dr. Reddick for allowing us to use the facilities here at Gadsden City High School, his staff in the rear that has been very supportive with the technology end to what we're doing. I also want to thank CCRC Facebook Gadsden for your live streaming and making sure that we're transparent with getting this information out to the public, as well as Real Talk. So there are a lot of tentacles that is making this city come together, that is assisting in this city coming together. So I want to say, I was going to quote a scripture, but I'll just say to you all that you have truly demonstrated 1 Corinthians 13. Like you have communicated in love tonight. You've been patient with each other. And that really means a lot, because we're living in a world right now where people are thirsty for just kindness, just being kind to one another, just being fair to one another. We cannot boil the ocean. We don't have all the answers, but we can work together to ensure that what we need to get done for people coming behind us, for generations to come, that they'll be able to look back and say that they participated in it, whether it was a vote, whether it was showing up to a meeting and, you know, enacting a bill or using your voice to make sure that you're being heard. You took a seat at the table. And so I want to say thank you all. Thank you again to the candidates, and God bless you. Good night.
Go to word4mayor.com.
Thank you.